Alright, welcome to AudioC Part 4. In Part 3, I basically went over the entire history of the La Isabela colony. Very short-lived, but I kind of mentioned at the very end that the natives there had also been treated poorly and were also getting sick and dying. And this was true. The people that lived there before Columbus got there were called the Taino. And they suffered largely from European disease, mainly smallpox and measles. And if that didn't kill them because so many people were sick, same thing with the Spaniards. Planting and working on their fields just didn't happen. Las Casas, again, the Native American defender, documented in his first expedition that he had seen nearly 1 million Taino resided on Hispaniola when Columbus arrived. But by 1510, the number would be reduced to 33,000. In 1514, that number would be 26,344. A lot of this, again, was due to disease. Now, whether Las Casas was correct in thinking that there was a million here, that's a little shady. But what that means to me is that there were a lot of people here. If we look at the pictures here, we can see in picture 16, that is an actual reconstruction of a village. This is actually one from Cuba, but it would have looked very similar to the ones that would have been in the Dominican. To add to the people here, because the natives were sick and they were dying out, they couldn't provide the necessary workforce that the Spanish needed for the mines and such. So they started importing African slaves. And somewhat of like an interesting tale of how the Africans got there. Kind of like, to make a long story short, most of the Africans that showed up first were from what was called the Jolof Empire, and it was located in what was now Senegal and Gambia in Africa. And these people were prisoners of war, so all of the men were military men, skilled in fighting in war, that just happened to get captured and they were sold into slavery. The uprisings were rampant among these slaves because they could do that, and many of these guys ended up just flat out escaping to live in fugitive communities called cimarrones. In the mountains of Hispaniola, mountains everywhere. They lived here with escaped Tainos that did not die of disease, and they call those communities maroon communities. The fugitives are called cimarrones. The maroon communities is where they live. And in around 1519, these communities began to attack the Spanish holdings using guerrilla warfare techniques. They were led by a Taino leader called Enriquillo, and he was actually kind of a learned guy. He was taught by Franciscan monks, and here's a statue of him, number 17. And Enriquillo, by 1533, was so pesky with the Spaniards that they actually signed a contract, or signed a treaty with him to ensure that his people were free and that they were safe. And that war was called the Barauco War from 1519 to 1533. By 1542, the number of guerrillas in the mountains outnumbered the Spanish, and that ultimately helped drive out the sugar industry from the island altogether.